independent, not so much in the best way. They're so independent that they try to do their own thing. They get to a certain point in their career, no matter what it is, it doesn't even have to be Primerica, and they try to reinvent the wheel. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. The system that Shaq has for everyone, RVPs, below RVPs included, is a winning system, and all the biggest hierarchies in the company always have a unified hierarchy. Everyone is doing the same thing. Yes, you may have a different style, but everyone is using the webinars. Everyone's doing the follow ups. Everyone's doing the fast start meeting presentation. Everyone should be doing the same QA presentation. Everybody should be using the same overcoming objections. And as you become unified with your upline, our vice president, our NSD, your people will become unified as well. On the way over to this district leader, oh my gosh, what filling the pipeline with people who to see who qualifies is really important. Bruce said one of the things that really changed my career. He said you have to be careful who you spend your time with, who you invest your time with. One of the biggest things that made a difference for me is knowing who to invest my time with, most of my time, 80% of my time. And 80% of your time need to go with the 20 percenters on your team, because 20% will do 80% of the work. Those are your core players, but you don't really know who they are until you put them through this pipeline and see who starts off the right way and starts kind of showing you those green lights, not red flags throughout this pipeline. All right, Shondell?
Right, right. So, real quick, I just want to just go through the picture here with you guys because it may seem like there's a lot of stuff going on. We're going to go through each section here of this pipeline and break it down some different points there. But obviously, like Jen said, the 10 people come in and then their thinking has to be right, which is kind of what she started talking about. We're going to go into that. And then that's going to create accountability. And then from that, you're going to start training people and they're going to start prospecting. Once they start prospecting, you're getting more people to opportunity meetings or webinars. And then from that, obviously the recruiting is going to go up. And then as the recruiting starts to go up, then your attendance is going to go up. And then once your attendance starts growing, activity is going to increase, more QAs, more training appointments as well. So that's the next shoot off. And then from there, sales will increase. And then once your sales start to increase, people will start getting promoted, right? And then once you start getting more promotions, your income overall will start to increase and start to diversify, not just from money coming in yourself, but it'll come from overrides and securities, so on and so forth. And then you'll continue to push through the pipeline and continue to pop out more district leaders. So we're going to kind of break all of that down, guys, with you. So the first one was thinking and accountability. So when you look at this, guys, thinking is extremely important, just like Jen said. And Bruce said that thinking makes people survive. A lot of times when you're at a job, you don't have to think too much. They just tell you what to do, you do it. In some jobs, yes, you do have to think, but in most cases, it's very mundane. You're doing the same thing every single day, and most people don't really have to think. So here, you have to think, you have to be creative, you have to always figure out what are you going to do next, how are you going to make money, how are you going to help people, how are you going to get in front of new faces all the time. And you have to get better over time and think the right way. You have to be self-improving. If you're not self-improving, then it may be very tough to continue moving forward in the right way in the business. So thinking is critical. But then thinking, if their thinking starts to become working in the right way, then that's going to lead to them starting to have accountability. And Bruce said that accountability is the greatest form of maturity. So when you think about that, we used to have this like Google sheet, right? And in that Google sheet, it only had really tiny boxes for you to put in numbers in those boxes to track your week and kind of report to Bruce and report to Samir and Shaq when we were setting appointments. And so I think that that's critical because a lot of times when you may talk to either your downlines or your uplines talk to you and you say, hey, what's going on this week? Where are you at? And then people start telling all these stories, all these excuses of either why they didn't or why they did or what happened. Accountability, when it comes down to it, you take responsibility at all times for what's happening and you're paying attention to your numbers. And so when you start becoming accountable to other people, you're not worrying so much about the stories. You're just trying to make sure that you're doing the right things and you're reporting that information to your uplines and keeping yourself accountable, number one. I think Bruce was saying, hey, sometimes people will be like, hey, Shondell, can you keep me accountable? Can you keep me on track? And he's like, no, you need to learn how to keep yourself accountable, right? Keep yourself accountable on a day-to-day. Don't ask me to keep you accountable, right? So that's huge, guys. It's the greatest form of maturity when you can keep yourself accountable. How do you know you got someone you should invest time with? That's a critical question, and Jen kind of mentioned that earlier as well. But how do we know that? He told us getting on the Zoom and returning your calls or text. If they're not getting on the Zoom and returning your calls or text messages, like, come on, guys, this is the easiest thing in the world now that we're on Zoom. And before, I mean, people used to have to show up to the office, be there on time, get there early, all of that. We got to transition that here into this environment, but it should be easy. Bruce literally says, all you have to do is click a button on your phone and now you're on Zoom, right? So like, we got to make sure that people are at least to the minimum getting on trainings and at least returning a call or text message. If not, then, I mean, if they don't do these things, it doesn't matter because they're not going to get to anything else through this pipeline or in the business, to be honest. So that's very, very important. And then until you put accountability in numbers, you can't make money. Very similar to what I was saying before. Accountability has to be numbers oriented. How many appointments did you have set this week? How many did you do? How many carrybacks do you have? How many fast start meetings did you complete? How many invites did you have to webinars or interviews if you're still doing that? Follow-up, so on and so forth. But everything has to be numbers. And when it's numbers, that's when you can kind of start to see it. So what do we mean by that? When you're tracking your numbers and you know the formulas, like for example, setting appointments, 50% of them will happen. So we have this equation that we show all of our new associates. Hey, if you want to make a certain amount of money, that means you have to do a certain amount of production, right? If you want to get a certain amount of production, that means you have to complete appointments. To get, let's say, 3,000 in production, you probably need to do at least 6 appointments because 50% will close. And then from those, in order to do those 6 appointments, you need to schedule double that. So you need to schedule 12 to do the 6 to get the 3,000 in production. So if you know those numbers and you're tracking them, you'll understand the business and people won't be like, hey, Shondell, why aren't you making it? Why am I not making any money? Well, how many appointments did you have set, right? And so you got to track those things. Same thing on the recruiting side. And then you're going to start to see your trends personally and focus on how you can build those, beat those, have records. Like we all heard on Top Turnout today, it was a record for Jen, right? So she wouldn't know that that's a record if she wasn't tracking her numbers, right? So that stuff is very important. And once that you start tracking it, then Bruce started using this phrase, build, measure, learn. Build, measure, learn. So what does that mean? Start building your business, doing the right things, measure, track the numbers, and then learn. So track the numbers, figure out what's going on, and very quickly make adjustments, learn from it, and then repeat the process. Start building again, measure what's going on. If there's anything that's off, fix it, make adjustments, learn from it, and continue to build. And it's just a constant cycle. So that's where we go from accountability. And once your accountability starts increasing, then your prospecting will increase. So Josh is going to go through this.
Yep. So one thing I learned is you don't feel your way into acting right. You act your way into feeling right. And nobody ever feels like prospecting. That's not something that, it's like working out. Rarely do people feel like working out. And it just so happens that working out is the one thing outside of eating right that gets you the type of lifestyle, health, and body that you want. But nobody wants to work out. They say everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So that is prospecting as well. The next step in the leadership pipeline is going out there making a decision that no matter what come hell or high water, rain, snow, sleet, or sunshine, I'm going to go out every single day and I'm going to get 5 to 10 new names and numbers of people that could potentially join my business or become a client in my business or both. And you look at this, it says cost-free advertising. It's just something that I thought of yesterday. If you bought a McDonald's, if you bought a McDonald's and the first thing, and let's say you needed, sorry, I'm reading something. The first thing you needed to do is find some talent to run that McDonald's, unless you're ready to cook the fries, you know, and fry the patties and clean the joint and cashier the register and do the drive-through. Unless you're ready to do all that all by yourself, you got to go out there and find some talent. And that costs money. Advertising for anything and everything always costs money. So when it comes to prospecting in your Primerica franchise, you got to understand it's the one thing that you can do. It's the most profitable thing you can do. Number one, prospecting is the most profitable thing that you can do for your business. And it just so happens to be the one free thing that is also the most profitable thing as well. Prospecting costs no money, but has all the payoff in the world. If you think about it like that, that's inspiring to me. Most people go on YouTube, they type in, how do I make an extra $2,000 a month? And all of these gurus come up with their videos. Well, I'm here to tell you guys today that you don't need a guru. All you need to learn how to do is put your face in front of a new face. That's the guru advice of the day. Put your face in front of a new face. Okay? The more faces you can put in front of your face, the more chances you have to tell the greatest story ever told, which just so happens to be your own story. If you can tell people what you used to do, I like Ian's example here. Ian beat me today in attendance, and I've never seen Ian's attendance that high, right? So if I were Ian, I'd be telling everybody before Primerica, I was doing this. Right now, I am focused on growing our business or our attendance to 40, double what I have now. And I'm going to be the next regional vice president making $20,000 a month. And I want you to join me in business, because to do that, I need you to make $10,000 a month, right? And that's a attractive story. But if you can, and the way to do this is to build your team and recruit is to constantly be doing webinars, leverage the resources we've put in place for you to win. So in summary, guys, understand prospecting is the most profitable thing that you can learn how to do and consistently do. Someone told me simple systems constantly done pays you. Simple systems constantly duplicated makes you wealthy. Okay, so do it daily. It's the most profitable thing you can do, and it's free. Be in front of 30 new faces a month. Tell your story frequently, make it attractive, work with your upline, and get these people to watch the webinars, guys, and you'll be in great shape come 2021. All
right, guys, this is my favorite thing to talk about of all time ever. So Josh just talked about building, prospecting, and using the webinar to go ahead and attract people to your business. That's of course called recruiting once they submit an IBA on paper. But really, the recruiting process doesn't end right there. It actually starts right there. You have to build at least 10 to 15 hours with each recruit. And that's either them showing up with attendance, doing work sessions with you, etc. However, when you recruit somebody, what do they do next? You got to have them showing up. And I'm going to go back and forth between these points here, guys, so just bear with me. But showing up is the lowest level of commitment. If they don't show up, how are they even going to be able to work with a new teammate later? Better yet, how are you going to be able to trust them with a client if they can't even show up to their own business? If you were a client of them, would you want to do business with that person that doesn't even want to invest time, an hour and a half per Saturday to their own business that services that client? I'm always thinking about, oh, do I trust this person to serve the client? But hey, when they show up and they start competing for what you just saw, top turnout, you guys, some people are not even paying attention to top turnout. For the longest time, Shaq has said consistently, the person with the most people always wins. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. And I've never steered away from what Shaq said, even though some months were not the best months that I saw because I was doing most of the work. Now I'm starting to see, because when people show up and they start building an attendance of their own and they start communicating the same language to their team, now all of a sudden you start to really see who's popping up as leaders, who can report their attendance to you if who's direct to you, who can pay attention to the Zoom. And then you start to kind of see a little bit of independence kicking in. They start to really know who's on their team. They start to reach down to their team, and they start to really take pride in the winning categories versus getting used to losing. So you, with these people that show up to your team, they're not just numbers, but it also allows your numbers, your attendance numbers, to guide your efforts. What do we mean? Bruce said it. When somebody shows up, on average, when you have a team of, let's say, 10 showing up, you should have 10 QA set throughout the team because each person should set one. Now, if they're not, then everybody has to kind of, make some adjustments. But once you have 10 a week showing up and you start building through that and getting activity done, doing a blitz, now you start to include in that recruiting activity again and kind of replay that. That double-digit recruiting is only going to come from having 10 in attendance weekly. You don't double-digit recruit unless you have people showing up. But 10 is the magic number. So double-digit recruiting comes from 10 showing up. That's your attendance. That needs to be that. If you want a double-digit recruit, you got to have 10 in attendance. If they don't show up, I don't know about you guys, but this is what I do. And if you don't have to do it like me, you don't have to communicate it like me, but I think that we have a good track record of not just recruiting consistently like Shondell and Josh do, but a great track record of attendance relative to what we used to do. And when people don't show up, at least on our team, okay, I'll talk from my base, I don't care. You're coming off the Telegram. I don't even want you on our Telegram, because if you you can't even commit to the lowest level commitment, you're taking away from the team, not adding to the team. And our team is a winning team. We don't have any weak links. Everyone comes on. If you don't have winning habits, we'll show you those winning habits, and that starts with showing up. So as your attendance grows around other people, they're going to see more examples. There's so many times when I've heard from a winner that you can't really notice. You can't really pick the winners, guys. You just put a winner in a winner's environment and you can't stop them. The attendance is caught. The environment is caught, not taught. When they show up, they start to really see what the winning team looks like. They start to see other examples they can follow and look up to. You cannot explain the environment. They got to catch the environment. And when they say they're going to show up, take their word seriously, because I tell people, listen, I'm going to have a coaching conversation with you. And I won't take them off Telegram immediately, but eventually I will. But if they feel any type of way, I'll say, hey, listen, the only reason why I'm calling you out is because you said to me, you gave me your word, you're going to show up. And if I didn't take your word seriously, that would offend you, wouldn't it? So doesn't it make sense that I'm taking your word seriously? So when you say you're going to do something, I have to believe that you're going to do it, right? So don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do, guys. If they can't handle the small stuff, you need to build under them.
Awesome, guys. So if your attendance grows everything else will start to grow, like Jen was alluding to. So your activity will start to increase. And so if people have good accountability, they have good thinking, then they're going to start to bring in activity. So it's just normal that that process is going to continue to happen, because if they're being accountable, they're going to want to say, hey, I have appointments set, I have these webinars set, I prospected these many people. They're going to want to say that, and activity is going to start to increase. And when that activity starts to increase, now we're going to get to a point to where more field training is going to increase, because obviously now we have to get them in the field. They start setting appointments, we're getting them in the field, they're setting more, they're getting more referrals, they're building more confidence in the business, and they're like, oh my gosh, that was great. Maybe they see their first check, right? We can talk about that in a second, but now they're excited and they want to get out and do more appointments. So that's going to start driving everything up. And so we like to say